Today we're going to talk about the 8 pillars of joy, and I got them from this fabulous book called The Book of Joy. And in 2015, Archbishop Desmond Tutu traveled to India to spend a week with the Dalai Lama on his 80th birthday. And Douglas Abrams was there to record the conversations as they talked about joy. Like, how do we, in a world that looks sometimes chaotic, how do we find our joy? And they came up with these 8 pillars. And, you know, look at these 2 faces. They look joyful, and neither one of these individuals has necessarily had an easy life. And in fact, I think both of them have gone through more trauma than possibly any of us in this room. And yet they find that joy, and you see it in their face. I remember, and I think it was the word stress, when the Dalai Lama came to the University of Washington, and somebody in the audience asked him how he dealt with stress. And his response was, "I don't understand the question." And they were like, "Well, like, what do you mean you don't understand the stress?" And he goes, I don't have a comparable word. What does that mean? Stress. So he didn't understand because he doesn't experience it. Which leads us into the first pillar of joy, and that's perspective. And Pete's song was fabulous introduction to that. It's not the same. I look at things differently, and so the world is not the same. It's about perspective. You get to decide. We're not all gonna be having a full joyful life all the time, because life happens all the time. And yet we get to put perspective on what's happening to us. We get to decide, is this a learning growth experience, or is this really the end of my life as I know it? Now, I don't know about you. However, there have been things that have happened in my life that I really thought this was the end of my life as I know it. And I look back now and think, thank God. Thank God that was the end of my, because it really was. And yet I was so busy hanging on to something that wasn't serving me. And yet I understand now there was a bigger plan. And I just needed to let go and surrender. And that's what perspective is about. No matter what's going on in your life, if you gave that story of what's happening in your life and you looked at it and let it belong to somebody else and talked about that story and really took it to the nth degree, the worst that could possibly happen, you probably wouldn't do that to another person, right? You'd start thinking immediately, well, wait a minute, it's not that bad. You'd want to give this person some helpful information on how they might want to look at it differently, how they might want to steer off that path and maybe try a little different angle. And yet all of us, when it's happening to us, boy, we go right down. The path is, I don't know, it's got slippery stuff on it leading us right to, boom, big destruction, right? Or maybe it's just me, and if it is, I'm glad. However, that's sometimes how my mind works. And I have to reel myself in and say, you know, you could look at this a little bit different. You could have a little bit of perspective of what's really happening and how bad is it really. You know, I have shared with, I think, all of you at one time or another, there was a time that Paul and I lost everything. And yet most people didn't know it because I didn't let that be how I showed up every single day in my life. I'm not saying I didn't have my moments laying in bed, looking at the ceiling, kind of wondering, what? And yet, every single day I got up, every single day I found something to be grateful for, and every single day I moved forward. And that was 10 years ago. I now own a house. I have this amazing job. I have no financial uncomfortableness in my life. And it was all about perspective. How do I handle the down to bring me up to this. Because I could have stayed here and driven right off a cliff with my unhappiness and how did this happen and the world's unfair and what I believe, because I truly believe what we teach here. If I'd done that, I would have stayed there. I would have kept calling forth more destruction, more not being able to earn a living, all of that. I would have kept calling it into my life. And yet I chose a different perspective. This is something that happened, and I could list out why it happened, and now I'm going to make an agreement. I'm going to show up differently. And when I show up differently, the path changes, right? So it's perspective. The second pillar of joy, one of the things they say, the perspective, is to see things through the eyes of God or the divine or spirit, whatever you want to call it. See things from that, if you will, 10,000 foot level, bigger than that actually. But see things as if the universe, Ernest Holmes would say, the universe is never against you. The universe is always for you. So if it's always for you, then whatever's going on is helping you propel yourself into your greater next to be. That's what I believe. That's what this philosophy teaches. So the second pillar is acceptance. It's acceptance. I remember when I went to Landmark training and they kept asking the question, what is life? You know, they don't use spirit because it's a training organization. However, I could use their training, and absolutely it was everything that we taught here when I took the Landmark training. And one of the things that they talked about is life is going to happen. That's acceptance. Life is going to happen. And you can push against it. You can hang on. You can make yourself crazy thinking things are going to be different. Life is going to happen. And if you can accept what's going on and create some ease and grace in your life, then you'll be able to propel yourself forward. And so some of that acceptance, like I said last week, I think it was Lily Tomlin that had the quote, is when you start to forgive people, is when you start to realize that you're not going to have a different past. Right? Those things happened. You can have a different perspective about them, and you can accept what was and then move forward. So another pillar, the third pillar, if you will, is humility. And humility for these two men, and I want you to think the Dalai Lama, leader of the monks, the Tibetan monks, and I want you to look at also the fact that, because he looks at his life as an opportunity. He was driven out of his homeland, and he can never go back for fear of death. Driven out of his homeland. However, if he had not been driven out of his homeland, we wouldn't know who the Dalai Lama is. That was the gift of having him driven out of his homeland. So we could experience him. And he holds nothing against the people that drove him out of Tibet. You know, he holds no animosity, he holds no hatred, and he holds everybody equal, as does Archbishop Tutu, equal to who they are, regardless of what they've done, or what their position or how they show up in life. They are still equal. And we would say why they are equal, well, how we would term that here is they're equal because each one of us is God in form. Regardless if we're Bill Gates or somebody that works at Microsoft. Regardless if we're cleaning streets or sleeping on the streets. We're all God in form. We all have a purpose. And sometimes we forget. We forget what our purpose is. We let life happen to us instead of us embracing life. And everybody know the difference? Life happening to you is you wake up in the morning and whatever happens is just going to happen. And you have an opportunity, because you're co-creating with the divine, you have an opportunity every single morning to decide, this is how my day's going to look today. And you can get as detailed as you want to, or just, I'm going to be happy today. I'm going to show up. I'm going to have a smile on my face. Nobody's going to cut me off on the freeway. I'm going to be happy. Right? Courtney can sit there in her San Francisco jersey, I'm still going to be happy. Because really, that is about perspective, right? What difference does it make what team she roots for? Boy, we get really wound up in that. And I am a Seahawks fan. I was born and raised in Washington. I've been a Seahawks fan since 1976. I saw them when we should have had paper bags on our heads. And I've watched them. I was in Santa Fe when they won the Super Bowl. And yet, it shouldn't make any difference. Football is just an example, if you will, for politics, for religion, for anything else. It should not make any difference about how Courtney and I treat each other because we don't root for the same team, or because we don't choose to believe in the same way, or we don't choose to support the same candidates. That's one of the things that divides us instead of bringing us together. And it's football, right? It's religion, right? It's politics. It should not divide us. And so humility is seeing everyone as if it was a mirror, because it is. I love the fourth pillar, because the fourth pillar of joy is humor. And I want you in your mind's eye to picture the Dalai Lama for a minute, because I have never seen him in person. However, I know even through the TV, when you see him, you can see his eyes, and his eyes are lit up. Lit up. That man is just a container of joy. And then when he laughs, it makes you want to giggle with him, because he has a light, kind of silly laugh. We should all record it and then just click it on. Or a baby. Joy teaches laughing meditation. There she is. She's up there. She teaches a laughing meditation. We should laugh more often. And the person we should laugh at the most, I hate to say this out loud, ourselves. And I want you to know that was a huge shift in me, to be able to laugh at myself. Because I always assumed if people were laughing at something I'd done, they were laughing at me, not with me. And once I learned to laugh at myself, then I could laugh at other situations, and sometimes not always appropriately. I was sharing on Friday that my husband caught his hair on fire. I didn't see it happen. I probably would have freaked out if I'd seen it happen. I did not see it happen. He was doing a concert, and he bent over to do something to the sound machine, and there were little votive candles, and his hair got too close because he used to have long hair, and poof, the top went up in flames. Kind of gave him a buzz cut right here. So as I'm walking up, and he said, "Gayle, my hair caught on fire." Do you know how silly that sounds? I literally did this. And he said, "Are you laughing at me?" No. He goes, "Your shoulders are shaking." That's what I mean about inappropriate. And yet, it's a story that we can share and laugh about. Now, had he been hurt, I wouldn't have found that funny. I wouldn't have found that funny. And I'm sure I would have freaked out had I seen it go up in flames. However, to be able to laugh. I couldn't tell that story for about a year without breaking out. Belly laugh. Sharing that story. And he would always be the person that would start it. "Oh, Gayle, go ahead and tell him the story and how you behaved when I caught my hair on fire." "Okay, I'll do that." So we have to be able to laugh. We have to quit taking everything so personal. Because sometimes people get to share from where they are. And you get to receive that and decide how that affects you. It doesn't change what they've said. You're at choice. You're at choice whether You can laugh, or you're at choice whether, well, that kind of hurt my feelings. You're at choice, right? And I have shared this before. I forget what mentor told me, the first thing to ask yourself is, why did I hand that person that script? Instead of making it about them, if they said it to you, it's something you wanted to hear. Now, if they're not delivering it in the way that you expected, you might want to be clearer with the universe on how the messages should come to you, right? So to be able to truly laugh at yourself is one of the biggest gifts you can give. And I'm not saying that I'm perfect I'm not perfect at anything, just so you know. I'll tell you that right up front. Not perfect at this, still get my feelings hurt sometimes. And yet, I know now when that happens, instead of going to that sharp response, is to just breathe. To just breathe and think, it doesn't really matter that person said that. Not going to change my day. Whether they meant to hurt my feelings or not, probably they didn't. And I wish I could say I go there all the time. Sometimes some smart remark comes out of my mouth before I can catch it. So it's a practice. And yet it's a gift you give yourself to realize, again, the universe is never against you. You're calling forth experiences for whatever reason, and you get to decide what that reason is. So the fifth pillar of joy is forgiveness. And we've talked about this a lot recently. And it's forgiveness of self and forgiveness of others. And why do we do that? I believe personally, when you hold on to being angry with somebody, angry is an energy. And if love is a light energy, then angry is the opposite of that, or anger is the opposite of that. If you hold on to being angry with somebody, regardless of who it is, whether it's a relative, a coworker, a friend, whoever it is, if you hold on to that anger, you're drinking poison expecting them to die. That's the truth. You're doing damage to your body by expecting them to be, them to do the right thing by your standards. Remember, back to acceptance, perspective, humility, humor. Whatever they did, you don't have to forgive the act, and you can have clear boundaries in dealing with that person going forward. However, you do not want to carry around that anger, because anger, I believe, festers in the body. And it has all different kinds of, they're starting to prove scientifically, all different kinds of ways it's going to express in your body temple, and none of those ways are healthy. Not one of them. You'll either start to sleep less, or, who knows? You'll have digestive problems. You'll start to get headaches. Let them go. Let them go. If you're really that upset with them, why do you want to continue to carry them around with you? There's a quote, and I should write down who these quotes are from. Don't let anybody walk across your mind with their dirty little feet. Let them go. The sixth pillar of joy is compassion. Compassion. And compassion is that bridge between empathy and kindness. Compassion is that place, again, when you're working on forgiveness, compassion is that place that you go to. That is, they know not what they do. I don't think anybody in this world, there are some people that have really, for whatever reason, most of us don't know people that are truly out to get us and truly want to do us harm. And yet we build up in our mind or in our reality that this person did this to me, and we make a big deal about it. And compassion would be, they truly don't know what they're doing. And not from a place of superiority, just from a place of, you don't know about their life. How many of you think that you know my life? Because I get up here and talk about it every single Sunday. And I'm pretty open book. I really am, right? However, you have no idea. You don't wake up with me in the morning. You're not in my head thinking my thoughts. My husband doesn't even know me. Absolutely, totally. Nobody knows another person. Because you have no idea when I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning what is going through my mind. Whether it's shame or blame or guilt, whatever it is, you have no idea. And so you have no idea what's going through somebody's mind that may say something that you perceive unkind, that they think they're kidding in their sense of humor, or whatever. We make decisions. We make decisions about how our parents raised us and if it was good or if it was bad. But have we ever asked our parents what it was like when they grew up? Because behaviors are handed down, right? Behaviors are handed down. So compassion is really understanding that 95% of us on this planet really are doing the very best we can in every single situation. And sometimes we are gonna screw up because we're human, and that's part of the experience. The seventh pillar is generosity. And generosity is giving yourself, your time, talent, and treasures to others. You cannot receive things that you hold on to so tightly. If you want love in your life and you're not willing to be loving, love's going to have a hard time showing up. The same is true for anything energetically, and here's the gotcha. Money is just another energy of God. And so the more that you hang on to, the harder it is for the universe to give to you. Now, I don't mean that you should be spending money mindlessly. However, when you are in a place, when you feel that, when you see somebody standing on I'll give you a live example. I went to Fred Meyer on Wednesday because we needed to buy more lights for our Christmas tree. And I decided to get Top Hot donuts and coffee because I was celebrating with fat and sugar for the holidays. And as I walked up to Starbucks, I'm getting behind a gentleman in line, and there was a young lady, and she wanted a Frappuccino or something, and she was probably 48 cents short. And so they're having this discussion with the lady, you need more change. She didn't have more change. And I just walked up behind her and I said, I'll buy her coffee. Not that I'll pay the difference. I will just buy her coffee. She turned around and she said, thank you. I said, you're very welcome. And then I got in line. I didn't want anything. It was just my opportunity to give to somebody that in that moment needed a gift. Wasn't a big deal. Some other person might say, well, you shouldn't have bought that for her. It was coffee. Here's the thing about gifts when you give them. Don't look back to how they're going to use your gift. If you give somebody that is panhandling for whatever reason, because that's how, at this time in their life, that's how they survive, and then you find out as you're handing them money that they say they wanted for food, and then the next thing you see they're at the liquor store buying liquor store, don't you judge them. That's not a gift. That's a gift, and it's got so many strings on it, it's painful. If you can't give from your heart and just go, it's yours, then don't give, because you're not in the mindset. I don't know how many times I have said to people, maybe not here, But when I started Everyday Center for Spiritual Living in Santa Fe, and somebody said to me, I write that check on Sunday, and I don't know why I'm writing it. And I went, please don't write it then. That basket on Sunday to me, and I think to the practitioners here, and probably most of the community, is sacred. And it's energy. When you come up here with your prayers and your financial gifts, you are not only just giving a piece of paper or dollar bills or checks or credit card information. You are giving of yourself and your energy. And so if you are doing it out of a sense of, I got to do this, or I don't want to do this, don't give that day. Because it's energy, and we want the energy to be loving and compassionate and full of grace. And it's okay if you're not feeling there that day. It's okay to just say, I'm not going to give today. I'm going to put in a double prayer request that I can move out of this into something bigger and better for myself. And then the 8th pillar of joy, which should be no surprise to anybody, is gratitude. An attitude of gratitude. It is being grateful all the time for everything. When the rat ate my hose in my car, I went to gratitude once I could quit freaking out that I didn't have brakes. And I was very grateful that it, like I said, I've shared this, but I was very grateful that that did not happen on a normal work day. Because if somebody had cut in front of me, there wasn't enough brake there for me to slam on the brakes. And so it was very fortunate it happened on the Friday after Thanksgiving, and I pretty much had the road all to myself. So finding things to be grateful for, even in those moments where it's, I'd really like to go to full out anger. Like, how dare that little creature crawl up in my car and eat my hose on my brand new car? Should have gone across the street and done the guy over there. Could have gone there. Probably they would have been back. So we have 8 pillars of joy. And what I'd like to do is a meditation that pretty much is going to take us through all 8 pillars. And this will be our closing prayer. So if you want to close your eyes, you can. You can sit comfortably in your chair. You put your feet flat on the floor, or you can sit cross-legged if you choose. Rest your hands where they're comfortable. And take several deep breaths through your nose. Letting your body relax. I want you to think about a problem, doesn't matter if it's big or small, and let it just come to your mind. Reflect on the situation, person, or challenge that is causing you pain or suffering. Perspective. See yourself and your problem. Try to step back from yourself and your problem. See yourself and your struggle as if you were watching a movie about your life. Now think about this problem from the future, from a year or a decade from now. Recognize that this problem will pass. See how your problem shrinks as you see it. Now see yourself as one of the 7 billion people, and your problem as part of the pain and suffering that so many human beings experience. You can see your problem as part of the unfolding and interdependent drama of life on our planet, and even see yourself from space or from a God's eye perspective. See how deeply connected we are with one another. You are part of the flowering of the universe in your particular place and time. Your connection to others makes you much stronger and more capable of solving your problem. Let yourself feel love and appreciation. Let yourself experience humility for all those who have contributed to who you are and who support you in your life. Smile and see if you can chuckle at your problem, at your shortcomings, at your failure. Try to find the humor in the situation and in your struggle. Even if it is a very grave or serious situation, there is often some humor that can be found. The human drama is often a comedy, and laughter is the saving grace. This ability to laugh allows us to accept life as it is, broken and imperfect, even as we aspire for a better life and a better world. Accept that you are struggling and accept that you have human limitations. Remind yourself that these painful realities do happen to us, to those we love, and in our world. Acknowledge that you cannot know all the factors that have led to this event. Accept that what has already happened, and that there is nothing you can do to change the past. Now remind yourself, in order to make the most positive contribution to this situation, I must accept the reality of its existence. Place your hand on your heart and forgive yourself for any part you have played in creating this problem or this situation. Recognize you are only human and that you will inevitably fall short of your aspirations. You will hurt and be hurt by others. See the shared humanity of others who are involved and forgive them for their part and for their human limitations. Think of 3 people you are grateful for in this problem or your life right now. Can you find ways in which your problem is actually contributing to your life and growth? Are there people or things that are supporting you to face this challenge? Give thanks. Place your palms of your hands together at your heart. Have compassion for yourself and for how you are struggling. Remember, it takes time to grow and learn. You are not meant to be perfect. It is part of the fabric of life. There are going to be frustrations in any life. The goal is to use them as something positive. Feel the light of loving kindness shining from your heart throughout your body. Now send that compassion to your loved ones, to anyone you are struggling with, and out to all who are in need of love and compassion. Now feel the deep generosity that is in your heart. Imagine yourself radiating this generosity of the Spirit to all around you. How can you give your gifts? How can you transform your problem into an opportunity to give to others? When we give joy to others, we experience true joy ourselves. So experiencing the 8 pillars of joy. There was the humor. Come back into this time and this space and know in the mind and the eyes of the divine, you're perfect, whole, and complete. And so it is. Namaste.